get on to the news, and the major music story of this week continues to be kind of what the major music story was
Hmm.
last weekend as we were breaking of it. The Astroworld concert that ended up being a total disaster because of what is more now apparently appearing to be like a just mass casualty incident in which there was a trampling where a lot of people came towards the stage, rushed towards the stage during Travis Scott's concert, um, crushing people, trampling over people, as the old saying goes, with little to no regard for human life. And unfortunately, a ninth person has died from sustained injuries in the festival. You have a lot of people who are in critical condition from like brain swelling, like a lot of their organs not working. Unfortunately, the
Hmm.
number is likely going to go up a little bit more. But like a lot of these people were really young. Like it was like they're, and like, they're concert goers, the kind of people you would expect in the Travis Scott's fan base. He's a very popular artist. So of course his fan base is on the larger side. Um, but yeah, like the one of the more recent people to die was a 22-year-old Texas A&M University student, and I like that's just tragic. I don't really talk about this all that much, but I when I was in college around like 22, I almost went to a rave with some good friends that ended up being this kind of semi well known fire that happened because it was like at a
Oh
rave at a
shit, that's right.
warehouse. Yeah,
Forgot about
in
that.
Oakland, yeah, that just like
Hmm.
killed basically everyone in it. And so like I had friends there who I went with, and it was just like because I had funny enough, I mean not funny enough, I am, but like I had German homework to do. And so I was doing it that night, and so I missed it and ultimately wasn't there. But like to think of the shock waves of how it would be to know people who were at this event, to have like family members, loved ones who tragically died of these things. Of course, like for anyone who would know this, it's really sad.
Yeah, seriously, it's awful, awful. The videos you see, the stories, everything you hear, it's just horrible. It's what happened there.
Yeah. So Travis Scott sort of responded in one way. He's offered to pay funeral expenses for Astroworld victims, which I think is the least that can be
That's
done
the
there.
least you can do, man. Jesus.
Um,
Yeah.
and we had this kind of conversation last week, admittedly in like a somewhat glib way, but like I think we even made this point in a serious way that um, it's there's some things Travis Scott could have done better. Like Travis Scott is like a kind of like hype kind of
Hmm.
person. It's the personas that he's
Oh
cast in
yeah.
his shows, and we're gonna get into that in just a second. But I am not immediately sold on the idea that like this is Travis Scott's fault. I'm still on the side of like this is a number of things that went wrong in order to have this like calamitous result and ultimately this casualty. But he has been, kind of trying to be on the forefront and trying to say like I feel really bad about these things. He canceled another show that he was going to do this weekend, which again is like the least you can do, brother. He's offering for the basically family members, friends, to get 1 month of the BetterHelp app, as though Travis Scott's shucking podcasts now. Yeah, I mean, people have heard of BetterHelp as this app that, again, like you hear in podcast ads and other
Yeah, you
different
hear.
things, that is basically like you get to, through an app, find a therapist that you can speak to weekly, bi-weekly, whatever your schedule
Hmm.
is, and speak about your problems. Kind of, it's not too different from what you could do through like a health insurance provider. Again, through the limited opportunities you get to do a health insurance provider. And I think I may have actually talked about BetterHelp in a random context on Audioface before. I haven't used it, but it's just like a popular thing. There's some
Hmm.
controversy about it because of its usefulness. Apparently it's like vetting procedures. I think a lot of these things have been addressed by the company. Again, I haven't used it, so I can't really speak to how effective it is, but like there's been some criticism of that. It's like, okay, the best you can do is offer people this like mental health like therapy app, which I think is not a bad thing. And I don't think Travis Scott again can be responsible for like the stuff that BetterHelp is criticism that BetterHelp has had necessarily. I think it's a decent gesture, and even there's some like therapists and like mental health people in the field saying like, listen, if it like 1 or 2 or 3 sessions for like a month or so, which is a short amount of time, that could help people a little bit from something so traumatic, like it's better than nothing. So I guess that's the best like in defense of Travis Scott kind of thing. Unless I had anything more to add there.
No, not really.
Yeah. So kind of getting more into what we were saying earlier. Like there's a lot of articles that are looking back at Travis Scott's like history
Hmm.
at his other concerts. One note
Yes.
is that in July 2015, he was performing at an open air festival in Switzerland. Scott encouraged the crowd to beat up a fan who allegedly attempted to steal one of his shoes while Scott was crowd surfing. Um, After stopping the show, Scott pointed in the fan's direction and encouraged those around him to quote get that motherfucker and quote fuck him up. Um, he and a month later, at 2015, he was urging fans to climb over barricades at
Yep.
Chicago's Lollapalooza, saying "We want
Remember that.
rage." In 2017, a 23-year-old man named Kyle Green was seriously injured during Scott's concert at Terminal 5 in New York City. Green said he was pushed off a balcony after the rapper encouraged his fans to jump, and he suffered a fractured vertebrae that left him partially paralyzed. But before being treated for his injuries, he was taken to the front of the stage where Scott marveled at him for his fearlessness. Um, and so you get a number of these instances, and those things we're kind of alluding to, but I couldn't put into words at the time. It was just like Travis Scott exudes this energy and kind of promotes wildness at his
Yeah,
concerts.
exactly. Promotes behavior that leads to these incidents where rage behavior or like breaking down barricades and breaking down safety barriers to go and rage and mosh and do all this stuff. It's those barriers are there for a reason, and these limits are put in place for reasons. And when you go and you disregard safety, it's gonna like stuff's gonna happen like this. And he has a history of doing it multiple times.
Yeah. It's something that I think I'll echo this again. People at concerts, concert goers, musicians need to just be more careful about, be more watchful about. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying like there are people, and I'm not one of these people who like mosh pits and know these things at shows, right? I'm not saying you like can't have that fun, but like I think even
Oh yeah,
at those
naturally.
shows, there's a code of like taking care of each other and like not
Exactly.
going too hard that I think has been a little bit lax in the past couple years, and now you kind of get this result. Just like be good people, like just care for one another just individually. We can still do that as music lovers and things like that. But nevertheless, things are not looking good in the legal front for Travis Scott, as Ben Crump, who I had to pause a little bit because Ben Crump's usually the guy you see for like Black Lives Matter related
Yeah,
like
yeah.
legal things, like anything
Super
like
random.
yeah, anything relating to like
So no, he did
police shoot.
Trayvon Martin, and did he do George Floyd too?
He's one of, like the lawyers involved. He's one of those like
Yeah,
semi-controversial like celebrity lawyers that
yeah.
appears around like popular Black Lives Matter cases. So he's turning his guns on the community. I'm kidding, but apparently Ben Crump has filed nearly 100 lawsuits on behalf of Astroworld
God damn,
attendees.
a lot of
Um,
typing, dude.
yeah, you this is addition to another like almost 100 that have been done by like law firms who have basically been like, okay, anyone who wants to file a lawsuit against this clearly messed up thing, we're on the case. If you join on this
How
case,
about
it makes things a little bit easier and like more efficient. So I think there's one quote in here that was like, yeah, by lunchtime tomorrow the numbers will probably double if I get through the end of the night. He's talking like he's finishing an essay. Like mad respect to some extent, but I was also hearing from, again, some more people who work around these circles kind of in the industry that, yeah, Live Nation's insurance does not cover this apparently. So it
Rip?
is it is very likely, and I was saying that like, okay, the service that Live Nation does is still going to need to be done, but Live Nation as a company may not financially.
Let's say may go tits up.
um I was I'm really old at this, but like there's a very first scene, early scene in Tiger King where he just goes, "I will never financially recover from this." That could be Live Nation in a minute. Um, but yeah, overall the lawsuits are not looking good. This image that's being built up of Travis Scott, this record, in the
It's not
public,
looking good.
is not looking great. So he might have to take a step back for a little bit.
Yeah, he should take a step back for a bit. There's 9 deaths so far, and could potentially be more. I hope not. More people that are in critical condition can pull through and stuff, but he definitely has to take a step back from this.
That's
And that
yeah,
people grieve and mourn and everything as well.
that's an important point too. Like this is a really sad time, and I encourage
Yeah.
people who listen to the podcast, if you have like the resources, there are a number of different um GoFundMe's and donation things for individual
Hmm.
victims of the concert, larger funds altogether. I think just like, again, I think the music community can kind of pull through here together and kind of show unity in this case.
Hmm. Agreed.